All right, let's bow our heads in prayer. Lord, we come to you and ask your blessings on Rotary and all the things we do. Let us use our talents, our gifts to reach out in the world and do good things in our community and other places around the world where Rotary can reach and bring betterment to mankind. I especially am thankful to all my Rotarian friends and the blessing I have had through my surgery and to be in this good state that I can walk and talk and look forward to further future complete recovery. Thank you again for all the things that we've been blessed with in Rotary, and have your graces upon us as we go forward. All things we ask in his name. Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Wait.
With allegiance.
United States of America, to the Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Right. No, it's her. It's Max DuPlant. She's the past president. That's a girl. She's the past president of the Irving Rotary Club. She's a past city secretary of Irving. Now, has she been selected already? Really? We never even got a deal you never got anything to even know. And another club got left out too. I don't know why this election process was faulted. It's following the other elections. Right. Because the other person running was from Charlie Marley from Dallas. And I didn't know, no announcements have been made. When was the selection? I was told it was going to be this Saturday after Roundtable. Can you send me a copy of the email? Oh, okay. Oh, I know. I get too many. Spam. Well, about the social on next Tuesday night, we'll say 6 o'clock, and it'll be $13, so we don't have to have change. And okay, and I've invited Blake and Jennifer to come. We need to get Philip Martin. I don't know if he'll be 6 o'clock is about when they're closing up over there at the Boys and Girls Club. Huh? Has she gone back to Tulsa?
She may still be here, and she may be my ride, or she may drop me off, and somebody can maybe bring me home.
Oh, okay.
I just live half a mile up. I'm just half a mile up the road.
Another thing we might do too is go ahead and put our social on our Zoom. We can just have it going for the evening. And then I plan to have a trivia game, see how many people remember the trivia from the last time for Rotary Trivia. I might have a prize for the winner. Yeah, I might have a prize for the winner. So brush up on your Rotary history. This won't be anything you probably learned.
Oh, we learned a lot. Plus, we have 5 binders full of information.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, oh, whenever you send out your deal, your thing on the social, also put in there that your Rotary dues are past due, and I will try to send out an individual, just an email to each person that hasn't paid. No, I got a copy of it too. No, well, that's okay. We're going to wait until January 1st or 2nd. On December 31st. I know, but don't worry about it. I'll take care of it when I'm after the 1st of January. Yeah, I got it. I got a copy too.
Patrika. I appreciate it.
Share screen.
Are you going to record it?
He is recording now.
Of course. No. No problem. I'm just going to share the screen. All right. For that. Okay. All right. Can everyone, let's see, can you see the screen yet? Let's see. Maybe not. Okay. So it shows up. Does it show up now? Let me try again. Okay, perfect. Hold on, it's not letting me control it. Sorry. 1 second. Why is it doing that? Let me try again. It's doing something weird on my end. Sorry about that. Why is it doing that? Okay, well, we'll just do a different version. Let me just try one more let me try one more way. Don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Yes, it's just not, when I make the screen large, it says it's paused. Can you see the slideshow? Huh. I have no idea why it's doing that. Okay, let me try it that way. Okay, I think is it working now? Oh. Yes. Yes. Awesome. All right. All good? Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much for having me for your Rotary Club. I'm really excited to be here, and it's been awesome learning about what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome that you're contributing to society in such a positive way, so that's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to learning more and hopefully even staying involved and even getting involved in my own kind of organization nearby here in New York. So today I prepared a little presentation for you talking about breaking through the noise, and it's about creative marketing in crowded markets. So like Howard mentioned, I work in marketing. I've been involved in tech and events for quite some time, and something that I've consistently encountered is that there's a lot of competition out there, especially with trying to market new products or create campaigns around different types of products. So I kind of put together a little bit of information to share more with you about how I have worked with companies to break through the noise of all of the crowded other marketing campaigns that are out there. So first off, I have a couple of buzzwords here. You're probably used to seeing some of these pop up. A lot of companies are talking about how their brand uses artificial intelligence or blockchain, or things are cloud-based, and these kind of words just keep popping up. And a lot of times the brands that are using them don't even really know what they mean, or they're just kind of using them to be saying the next cool thing. And this is something that can be really frustrating for people that are working in marketing or even just trying to create a new product, because you're faced with all of the challenges of kind of combating these different buzzwords. And even if they don't really mean anything, sometimes you're still having to try to navigate a market where people are using these and trying to sound like the next big thing, even if they're not actually using some of these technologies. So the question is, how do you or your product stand out in a saturated market? And there are so many of these different products out there that competition is inevitable. It's one of those things where if you're doing something right, there are going to be other people who want to do what you do. And this applies to any type of industry, whether it's tech or whether it's finance. There's always something going on, and there's always people trying to do the same thing. So as a marketer, the question that I face quite often is, how in the world am I going to make this seem different from what everybody else is doing? And it's difficult. It really is difficult. But there are ways to approach this that actually help you create campaigns or create even different types of logos or even the little things. It's all about mindset in the approach. So what does that mean? That basically the mindset of the marketer makes the difference. So you can make a choice to say, oh, there's a million other products out there that are just like mine, or there are too many people doing what I'm doing and doing it better. And you can sit there in your self-defeat, or you can choose to think about it in a different way. Because there are other people doing what you're doing, there's also the option for you to do it differently. So that's where the mindset comes in. And there's always going to be competitive products out there. It's unavoidable. And I always tell people, if you don't have competition and you're doing something right, you will eventually have competition, because people are going to want to copy you. The same thing with companies like Uber. When they first started, they were basically the only product like theirs on the market. But then things like Lyft and Via and all of these other apps I've never even heard of are popping up. And they're all doing the same thing that Uber is doing with rideshare and calling a car from your phone and being able to share rides with other people. They're all doing the same thing. But Uber was the first. Now, if Uber had been so defeated that other people were doing what they were doing and just decided to quit, they wouldn't be the billion-dollar company that they are today. So it's a mindset thing, and that's what's really important when approaching any type of marketing campaign. So the experience overall is what customers remember. People remember the way that you made them feel more than the product in the long run. A lot of times we talk about in marketing how a bad experience actually gets more word than a good experience, because people are more likely to go and write a bad review because they had a bad experience. And if you think about it, customers are the same way when they're shopping for a product. If they associate a positive experience with the brand, they're more likely to continue to interact with that brand, even if the product is not as good as something on the market, or even if the product is more expensive. A lot of times they're willing to buy the experience or interact with the experience even more than the product. So that's a different mindset shift compared to just thinking about the product in a concrete way versus like my product versus your product versus their product. Instead, thinking about the experience as a whole. So what does that mean for your business? It means no matter what the product is, you're marketing to a customer. And customers are ultimately people. So when you're thinking about creating some kind of campaign or any kind of messaging, it's important to know what your product is, of course, but it's important to know what your customer wants. So even for things like boring products, people care about the experience with your brand. So in my career, I've actually marketed some pretty boring types of products. Most recently, I've been working with a company that does internet archiving, which just does not sound exciting. And if you look at the product just flat, it's not really an exciting thing to think about. Most people don't want to think about web archiving as, a hobby or anything like that. But there are people that need the product, and people care about the experience that they have with that brand when they're choosing something to archive their web content. So ultimately, this means that focusing on meeting the need instead of selling the product is what creates these campaigns when the market is crowded or the market is challenging. People have needs and they want those needs to be met. So if you are creating a campaign or some type of messaging that encourages people to believe in your product as the one that meets their needs, they're more likely to go with your product versus any other product on the market. And finally, you want to speak your customer's language. So this means I'm not specifically talking about whether your customer speaks English or Spanish or French or Russian. I mean, what does your customer use in their everyday life? For example, with this web archiving technology company that I was talking about, the clients are mostly in legal and compliance organizations. But if I was working on a food product and I used legal jargon, that wouldn't relate to the customer that's buying this food product. So when I say speak your customer's language, you want to think about what words does your customer use to describe their needs and their desires, and how can you speak that same language to them to connect to them on a personal level. So when you build this type of strategy out, you want to incorporate this concept into the entire messaging. So whatever your customer uses, if your customer says social media or your customer says web media, you want to meet your customer where they are and speak the same language so that they feel a personal connection with your brand, which ultimately plays into that overall experience that they're going to have with you. So this brings us to the main concept, which is customers are people first and buyers second. I say this as a reminder because it seems so simple, and a lot of times even I forget this, and a lot of people aren't even, you get so focused on the product that you're selling or the type of campaign that you're doing. We're going to, build this super creative thing, but ultimately the people that you're trying to sell to are just that. They're people, and they have emotions, and they have needs, and they have desires. So when you, as a marketer, meet the customer's need as a person, they become a buyer. Because if you focus on them just being a buyer, then you're going to lose out on that emotional piece or even the desire that they have to do well at work or accomplish a goal. If you're focusing just on the dollar sign, you're missing out on the person behind it. And by marketing to the person, you're creating someone that's loyal and someone that desires to stay with your brand over time. So that's why we say customers are people first and buyers second. So let's talk about meeting that customer and reaching their needs. So of course, there are quite a few channels that you can use to reach your customer. There's all types of traditional and digital marketing, advertising. There's also things like event activations. where you are attending an event or you're sponsoring an event and you do something creative to get your customers' attention. I mean, you can think about all the ridiculous flash mobs that we've seen over the years and all kinds of things like that. Those are part of a campaign to reach a customer. There's also social campaigns using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any type of social media, using video like YouTube or anything to reach those customers. There's also content marketing, which can be anything from webinars to blog posts to white papers and other types of articles. You can also do outreach with journalists and PR and things like that. All of that falls into creating content that you can use to reach your customer. And you also have things like search engine marketing and remarketing. So those times where you click on a website and then the next day you keep getting hits on Google from the same website reminding you to buy that pair of shoes that you know you don't need, but you're probably going to buy anyway because you're seeing them everywhere. Those types of channels are ways that you can reach your customer through digital and traditional and experiential marketing. So when you're building out these channels, it's important to build a cohesive message. And that way it evolves to meet the customer's needs and interests. So over time, when your customer sees your brand, whether it's online or whether it's at an event, they recognize who you are and how you meet their needs. Think about things like the golden arches from McDonald's. When you see those, whether it's an online advertisement or whether it's at an event, you know that you're going to be thinking about French fries and burgers and everything that McDonald's symbolizes. Also, really food that's really bad for you. You're going to think about that too, but you're probably going to eat the fries anyway if you're anything like me. But this is all part of a cohesive message. It's a symbol that over time in our mind has become something that we recognize and we know what need it meets. Your brand can be the same thing, even though it's not as big as McDonald's because very few companies in the world are. But that cohesive message, knowing what your brand means to your customer, is how you start to build that relationship over time. And you ultimately create your customer's experience. So messaging, interactions, all of those things work together to create the experience that your customer has with the brand. So instead of feeling powerless and thinking about how many other brands are out there or how many other people are doing the same thing that you're doing, you are ultimately in charge of that experience. And so by creating that experience, you are the one that builds that relationship with the customer and decides how they're going to feel about your brand. Oops. Okay, so, whoops, I went back too far. How can you create this consistent, evolving message? That's one of the questions that we're going to answer. And this is a challenge, and it's fair for it to be a challenge because people are always evolving and things are always changing. Every time you think you know one thing, something new pops up. Think about social media platforms. Once we got used to Facebook, there was Twitter. Once we got used to Twitter, there was Instagram. Always something new is popping up. And even the things that we think we know continue to change. Your customers are the same way. They're dealing with changes in life and they're evolving as your brand evolves. So in order to keep up with them and evolve with them, you have to keep the things that are part of your brand consistent, but make sure that you're moving with the flow of your customers. So I like to kind of live by a little mantra: when the going gets tough, the tough get creative. Now, I know the traditional phrase is when the going gets tough, the tough get going, but I like to think of this a little bit differently. Because it's easy to say the tough get going because a lot of times we just want to plow through and just, do whatever we can to make it happen. But in other times, there are times where we need to be a little bit more strategic and we need to be creative and we need to think of something that's a little bit different. And maybe it's not traditional, maybe it's not, what everyone would expect, but being creative is what makes us stand out. So I'm going to show you one example of a creative instance with compliance. Now, compliance is traditionally a very, very boring topic. I don't know very many people that really want to sit around and talk about compliance or anyone that's super passionate about compliance. But one of the brands that I've worked with, they market specifically to compliance professionals. Now, this event was all about financial compliance and avoiding your company getting millions and millions of dollars in fines. There is nothing exciting about that, and it's a very stressful type of job to think about how you're going to save your company from getting fined by all of these regulatory bodies. But I could have tried to think about what can I do with compliance? How can I, tell compliance professionals that I'm saving them money or anything like that? That's one thing. And that's what a lot of the competition at the event did. A lot of them just basically did the same standard large booth at the trade show with all of this information on how they've protected people from fines and everything like that. But I wanted to do something a little weird and a little bit different just to throw everyone off a little bit. So I loved going to carnivals growing up, and I know a lot of other people did too. A lot of people have fond memories of the state fair, and one of those things that usually shows up at these types of events is funnel cake. So I thought, why not play to the nostalgia of these compliance professionals and give them something that's just out of the ordinary and lets them relax and totally forget about their stressful jobs for even just a couple minutes at this trade show. So we brought a funnel cake food truck to this event. And there are a couple reasons why it actually worked. Because customers are people. Just like I said, they're people first and then they're buyers. And people like nostalgia. People like to think about their childhood and how they remember these fond memories growing up. And even though this funnel cake had absolutely nothing to do with compliance archiving software, it started a conversation, and it was just something that was out of the ordinary. And this brand was not one that's popular in the market. They're basically a very small startup in a world with all of these other older technologies that have so much more funding, and they can, buy out the trade show and do all of these crazy things. But by doing something different, we actually started a totally different conversation. And we met the customer's needs in a different place. They were at a long trade show where basically all day they're learning how to not get fired because they're causing their company to be fined, which is not fun and it's not an easy job. So by giving them something that was totally off the cuff and totally relaxing and exciting and just different, people loved it. And they came back to us and they talked to us and they thought that we were the cool brand because we did something that wasn't like anyone else. So in this example, this was a way of breaking through the noise, even with less funding and with less resources. So we were doing something different to break through the noise. So ultimately, that brings us to the concept of instead of making more noise, make a different noise. There's always going to be someone that has more money, more resources, more time, but if you focus on those things, you'll never really be able to compete. I have worked with brands that are basically small startups and can only contribute $5,000 to a conference when others are contributing $100,000 to a conference. Now, if that brand tried to outspin the giant brand spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're going to go broke trying. But by making a different noise, for example, this funnel cake at a compliance conference, we actually generated more leads and were able to make those personal connections by just doing something that was different. So that's how you stand out in a crowded market. Because competition is inevitable. Like I mentioned before, if you're doing something right, people are going to want to do what you're doing. So, and there's always a way for you to try to do something better than someone else is already doing it. But ultimately, you have to think, what does your customer want that other brands can't provide? Maybe it's customer service. Maybe it's just a personal connection, or maybe it's someone who will always be there to pick up the phone for them. That is a selling point that maybe a large company can't provide. Maybe it's a large company and they have more resources in terms of sales staff or other types of things, like they can send you free backpacks and free food and things like that. But that's something that a customer might want that maybe another brand can't provide. So when you're thinking about dealing with these crowded markets or dealing with the challenge of competition, you have to think about what your customer as a person wants and what can your brand or your product provide. So we also talk about focusing on the needs that you need versus the features that you have. So it's really easy to fall into, with any type of product, that my product does X, Y, Z, or my business does X, Y, Z. But what does that mean for the customer? If I tell you I can build a building If the customer doesn't need the building, then why am I telling you that? But if the customer needs an apartment, then I can tell you, okay, this building that I'm building has apartments in it, and that would be useful for the customer. So this is just a way that we can focus on those needs. That way the customer knows what you offer them and feels enticed to participate with your brand. And even if the competition has more resources, you can focus on the way that you can differentiate your brand with these types of concepts in mind. So staying in the mindset that you're building for your customer and you're creating for your customer, and that customer is a person, that's how you start to differentiate, and that's how you start to stand out. So we're going to do a little kind of exercise on speaking your customer's language. Now, we've all been in the grocery store and we've all gone to buy something simple like paper towels. So, for example, if you had to market paper towels, which message is more effective? Saying over 1,000 ridges per sheet or absorbs spills instantly? Now, I don't know about you, but when I go to buy paper towels, I have never personally known how many ridges were in the sheet of each paper towel that I purchased. I have no idea. And I don't even know if 1,000 ridges is good. And I don't know anyone that really does know if 1,000 ridges is better than 2,000 ridges, or most paper towels have 300 ridges. I really have no idea. But if you see absorbs spills instantly, that is most likely the reason why you're buying paper towels in the first place. So even though if you created this awesome paper towel and you know that it has 1,000 ridges and that's better than anybody else on the market, your customer probably wouldn't really care about that, because 1,000 ridges per sheet doesn't mean anything to anyone except for the person who's behind the product and created it. But we all understand absorb spills instantly, because the moment that someone knocks over a glass of water on the table and you're reaching for your paper towel, you're not going to think, oh, wait, how many ridges does this paper towel have? You're going to think, I'm going to put it on the counter and make sure that the spill is gone. And if the spill is gone instantly, then the paper towel has done its job, regardless of the number of ridges. So I know that this is kind of an oversimplified example, but it all boils down to speaking your customer's language and meeting their needs. So when you're thinking about creating a new message for any type of product, think about the paper towel example. What does your customer really want? And what does your customer going to gain out of your product? Not what the product features are. They care about what the results are for them. So this is where it boils down to speaking your customer's language and thinking about the needs that they have. So at this point, I'd love to open it up if there are any questions about marketing or creative campaigns or. Right. Definitely. Exactly. Right. Thank you.
I have a question about Facebook. We had a Facebook page, and I posted a few pictures, but now they're saying to boost your audience to pay $3 or donate $3 or to donate $1. What is that all about? I never had seen it before. So you have to pay on Facebook.
So Facebook has a thing with pages where they try to get as much money out of you as possible. Big surprise there, but they basically charge you, well, you don't have to do it, but they will ask you to pay to boost a post, meaning that they'll send it to people that are not in your page. Like, for example, right now I don't like your Rotary page, but I may see it if I interact with other types of content that are similar to you. It'll show up on my newsfeed even though I don't interact with your page currently. in hopes that I will interact with your page and like the post and follow your page. So they do that in order to help you expand your audience. Whether it's super effective or not, it depends. But the boosting a post is basically you pay to push it out to people who wouldn't ordinarily see it.
Okay. And then how often do they do this?
Right now, you'll see it show up on quite a few posts. If you post a picture or an update, a lot of time, especially with pictures or videos, they try to kind of place that little button underneath when you're an admin on the page to encourage you. Basically, they're trying to get a lot of money out of you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I've sent it to, I put likes to a lot of my friends. So anyway.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you. And thank you for your time this evening.
Oh, of course. And thank you all for having me. Thank you.
Right.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all
Beneficial
concerned?
to all concerned.
Good.
Sounds great. Thank you again for having me.
Okay. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
How about